My name is Anna, and I've spent the last 25 years building my life around what I thought was a family united by love and loyalty. I worked hard as a financial advisor, married Benjamin, a man I believed to be strong and dependable, and raised our son, Nathan, with the hopes of providing him with everything I never had. Our lives seemed perfect, but sometimes perfection hides the cracks. The sun was shining and the air was crisp that Sunday afternoon. I had been looking forward to Nathan's graduation for months. He had worked so hard for this moment, and as a mother, it was a milestone I could not miss. The excitement in the air was palpable as I watched him stand among his fellow graduates, beaming with pride. My heart swelled with joy. This was it, the moment he had worked so tirelessly for. I couldn't have been more proud of him, but what should have been one of the happiest days of my life. A day that marked the culmination of his years of hard work was about to spiral into something I could never have anticipated. As we gathered in the post-graduation celebratory atmosphere, I began to notice Benjamin acting strangely. My husband, who had always been my rock, was fidgeting, glancing around nervously, checking his phone every few minutes. His assistant Rebecca stood by his side, and I couldn't help but feel an unease wash over me. She had been working for Benjamin for a couple of years now, and while she always seemed polite enough, there was something about her that made my skin crawl. I couldn't put my finger on it, but I didn't trust her. The ceremony had ended. The guests had gathered for some quick photos, and then, just as I was catching my breath, Benjamin stood up, a glass of champagne in his hand. His voice, usually so warm and inviting, now held an edge I couldn't recognize. "I have something important to share with everyone," he announced. The crowd went quiet, all eyes on him. I felt my stomach drop. My heart raced. There was something in his tone, something off. I could see Nathan's smile falter as the silence stretched between us. "I'm leaving," Benjamin continued, his voice steady but cold. "Rebecca and I are in love, and we're starting a new life together. I've already transferred our savings to ensure a fresh start." The words hit me like a ton of bricks. I froze. My brain couldn't process what he had just said. My son's face went pale. The world seemed to slow down around me. Benjamin, my husband of 25 years, the man I had built my life with, was leaving. Not just for Rebecca, but he had already taken everything we had, our savings, our future. The room fell into a heavy silence, and I could feel the weight of the moment suffocating me. I glanced over at Rebecca, who stood there, smiling smugly, her hand resting possessively on Benjamin's arm. I wanted to scream. I wanted to run out of that room, but I stayed. I had to. For Nathan, if nothing else. The shock in the room was palpable, but I forced myself to speak, my voice trembling with a mix of anger and disbelief. "You're really doing this, Benjamin? You're just going to walk away from everything? From Nathan? From us?" Benjamin, unfazed, nodded. "Yes, Anna, I've made up my mind." I felt tears welling up, but I pushed them down. Now was not the time. I couldn't let him see how much he had broken me. Why? Why now, of all days? Why Nathan's graduation? You couldn't even wait a few hours? Benjamin looked at me with a mix of pity and indifference. "I'm sorry, Anna, but this is what I need. You know I've been unhappy for years." Unhappy for years. I had spent years building our life together, trying to make our family work. And now he was telling me that it was all for nothing. "I've already had enough of this," Benjamin continued. "I don't expect you to understand." But I did understand. I understood all too well. This wasn't just a betrayal of me. It was a betrayal of Nathan, of everything we had worked so hard for. I turned to Rebecca, the woman who had been the catalyst for all of this. She smiled as if this was some kind of victory, and my anger flared. "You," I hissed. "You really thought you could waltz in here and destroy everything?" Rebecca, unfazed, just shrugged. "I didn't do anything, Anna. Benjamin made his own decisions. But I wasn't done. Not by a long shot." I took a deep breath and steadied myself. "You really thought you could just walk out on us and get away with it? I've been watching you, Benjamin. Watching everything. You thought I wouldn't notice the transfers, the hotel charges, the accounts you've been hiding? You thought I wouldn't find out about Rebecca's role in all of this? But I did." The room went quiet again, and I could see Benjamin's smug facade begin to crack. I pulled a manila envelope from my bag, the weight of it grounding me as I handed it to him. "Here, Benjamin," I said, my voice low but steady. "I think you'll want to take a look at this." His hand shook as he opened it. I saw the color drain from his face as he scanned the documents. I had everything. The divorce papers, the bank statements, the receipts, everything. He thought he could take everything from me, but I had already prepared for this moment. "You think this is a game?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "You think you can just steal everything and walk away scot-free?" Benjamin's face twisted in confusion. What is this?" I smiled bitterly. "It's everything you've tried to hide from me. The affair, the money, the lies. You're not getting away with this." Rebecca's confident expression faltered as she realized what was happening. "You can't do this," she stammered. "We can fight this." I shook my head. "Fight it all you want, but the truth is out now, and you'll never escape it." Nathan, who had been standing silently beside me, stepped forward. "Dad, how could you do this? To Mom? To me? To our family?" Benjamin didn't have an answer. He stood there unable to meet Nathan's eyes, his shoulders slumping with defeat. "I've spent the last few years of my life wondering how someone could throw it all away for something as shallow as this," Nathan said, his voice steady despite the anger that was boiling inside him. "But now I see. You were never worth it, Dad." And just like that, Benjamin's world came crumbling down. His perfect plan, his escape, everything he had worked so hard for, was destroyed in an instant. Rebecca turned to him, her voice trembling with panic. "Benjamin, what do we do now?" But it was too late. The damage had already been done. I turned to the room, finally feeling a sense of peace wash over me. "You don't get to walk away from this. Not now, not ever." As I stood there looking at the wreckage of my family's once solid foundation, I couldn't help but feel a mixture of relief and sorrow. Relieved because the truth was finally out, the secrets had been exposed, and I had found my strength. But there was also sorrow deep in my chest, knowing that this moment marked the end of something I had once cherished. Nathan stood beside me, his anger slowly transforming into a quiet resolve. I could see the hurt in his eyes, but I also saw something else, a glimmer of understanding. He had witnessed the unraveling of the man who had once been his father, the man who had promised him a stable, loving home, only to shatter it with lies and deceit. Now Nathan was finally able to see the man for who he really was. Benjamin, now a shell of the person he once was, stood there trying to salvage his dignity, but it was already too late. He had lost everything, and deep down, I knew he understood that. His attempt at control, his misguided belief that he could start fresh with Rebecca, had crumbled before him. The house of cards had fallen, and there was no rebuilding it. As he stood there, still clutching the divorce papers in his shaking hands, I couldn't help but feel a pang of something. Perhaps it was pity, or maybe it was something more. For so many years, I had fought to keep my family together, to keep the peace. But now I realized that peace had come at the expense of my own self-worth. I had sacrificed so much, and for what? A man who didn't deserve me, a man who didn't even care enough to be present for the most important moments of our lives. "Is there anything left to say, Benjamin?" I asked, my voice steady but low. His eyes met mine, a flicker of remorse passing through them, but I knew it was too little, too late. "I'm sorry," he whispered, his voice cracking. But that was all he had. Those two words, empty as they were, couldn't undo the years of pain, the broken promises, the sacrifices I had made. They couldn't bring back the moments that had been stolen from us. Nathan's voice interrupted my thoughts, steady and calm. "No, you're not. You're not sorry. You're sorry you got caught. You're sorry it all fell apart." I looked at my son, proud of the young man he had become. He had endured so much, and now, in this moment, he was teaching me a valuable lesson. He was showing me that, sometimes, forgiveness wasn't about letting someone back into your life. Sometimes it was about finding peace within yourself and knowing when to walk away. "I don't need your apology," I said softly. "I needed you to be here. I needed you to be a father, a husband. But you weren't, and I can't change that." Benjamin opened his mouth to speak, but the words never came. There was nothing left to say. He had nothing left to offer. Turning away from him, I took Nathan's hand and squeezed it gently. "We're okay, sweetheart. We're going to be okay." As we walked out of the room, leaving behind the man who had once been our everything, I realized something profound. I had spent so many years waiting for him to change, for him to return to us. But in reality, I was the one who needed to change. I was the one who needed to take control of my life, to stop waiting for someone else to fix what was broken. The journey ahead wasn't going to be easy, but it was mine. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I could breathe again. I stood there, watching as Benjamin, the man I had once loved, now stood broken and defeated. His arrogance, his carefully constructed life, had all fallen apart in an instant. For so many years, I had tried to make things work, to believe in the man he once was. But as I looked at him now, I realized that man was gone. There was nothing left but the wreckage of his own choices. Nathan, my son, stood at my side, his expression unreadable. I could feel his anger, his hurt, but more than that, I could feel the weight of the decision he had made in his heart, to forgive or to not forgive. That was the question, the choice that all of us had to make. And as much as I wanted to believe that we could rebuild something from the ashes, deep down I knew we couldn't. Too much had been broken. I turned to Benjamin, my voice steady but resolute. "You've lost everything, Benjamin, and I can't say I feel sorry for you. You made your choices, and now you have to live with the consequences." He looked at me, his eyes full of regret. But I wasn't sure it was sincere. He had spent so many years lying, deceiving, and betraying our family that his apologies felt empty now. They were nothing more than words, words that couldn't undo the damage, words that couldn't bring back the trust he had shattered. Nathan spoke, his voice firm. "I can't look at you the same way anymore. You've been nothing but a shadow of the father I needed, and that's something I'll never forget." Benjamin took a step forward, as if to reach out, but I stepped in front of Nathan, protecting him from the man who had failed us both. "It's over, Benjamin. Don't waste any more of your time or mine. We're done." With that, I turned and walked away, Nathan's hand gripping mine as we left the room, leaving behind the man who had once been the center of our family's world. The drive home was quiet. Nathan didn't say much, and neither did I, but I could feel the weight of the moment settling in. The journey ahead wouldn't be easy. There was still so much to rebuild, but in that moment I felt a sense of relief. We had survived, and that was enough. As we arrived home, Nathan looked at me, his eyes filled with questions. "Mom, do you think I'll ever be able to forgive him?" I thought about it for a moment, the weight of the question heavy in the air. "I don't know, sweetheart. Forgiveness isn't something that happens overnight, but you're allowed to feel however you need to feel. There's no rush." We sat in silence for a while, the weight of the day settling over us, but I knew that, no matter what, we would be okay. We had each other, and that was enough. Sometimes the hardest thing we have to do is let go. We can't change the past, and we can't fix the people who hurt us, but we have the power to decide how we move forward. And that, ultimately, is what will determine our future. Have you ever had to let go of someone who betrayed your trust? How did you find the strength to move on? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear